us to imagine 400 years from today, and assuming that we were an audience that is 400 years from 2013. Or if you are finding very difficult to imagine an audience that is 400 years from 2013, you can imagine an audience that is 100 years away from 2013. Let's put it at 100 years or 200 years. And here, I'm very serious about that position that I want us to get into. There are countries where the current citizens of those countries are 100 years away from the making of their constitution, or they are 200 years away from the making of their constitution. Imagine you were an American, and you are in 2020 in the United States. You would know that your constitution was made in 1787. Is that clear? Yes. You would know that none of your politicians was involved in the making of the constitution. You would know that. You would know that all of you were not there when the constitution was made. You imagine yourself as a British citizen, and you would know that the foundations of your constitution were in 1688. But there you are, your prime minister is not part of 1688. I think if you put yourself in that position, you would know that your existence as a country is dependent on two sets of laws. There is a law that you call the Constitution, and then there are other laws. You would know that this law you call the Constitution is a higher law. It's a higher law that need not be made every day. It forms the foundation of your society. And the principles that are put in that Constitution ought to live beyond generations. They ought to outlive generations. That's what you would know. And then you would know that when I elect a government, the governments come into place to run the affairs of state on a day-to-day basis. And they will do that by attending to the day-to-day issues of your society. And that it should be extremely rare for those that you elect for a 5-year or a 4-year term to think about amending the Constitution. That's where I start from. Do we agree with that? That is where, from an expert point of view, I want to put across the position from an expert point of view. A constitution is not a simple document that can just be amended at will. It must be somewhat sacred. Now, it doesn't mean that it cannot be changed, but simply that it must be a fairly respectable document which you ordinarily ought not to interfere with. And at the time that when you visit that constitution, you ought to realize that this document has nothing to do with the government of the day. That this document goes beyond governments of the day. That this set of rules must involve virtually all those who are interested in it. Governments come and go, but constitutions ought not to easily come and go. That's from an expert point of view. True with it? But the point I want to make, because when you are doing what is sister, our garage go down in Madhuku, but after that in a sense. Your moments about meeting, there the first speaker, but somewhat you are getting time to get into the debate. I've made the foundations from an expert point of view. There's a difference between a constitution and any other law. Now, I want to tell you from now my experience as Lovemore Madhuku, a citizen of Zimbabwe. We have a problem with the government we have at the moment in this country, which has been running our country since 1980. They don't respect the view that a constitution is higher than other laws. They take the view that a constitution is like any other law. If I am elected, my first target is the constitution. If I want to show that I am in power, I am in government, I must do something about the constitution. If you are a minister of justice, constitution. That's the mentality of our politicians. And here I'm speaking as Lovemore Madhuku, the Zimbabwean citizen. The problem we have is a group of, and I'm not sure whether this only belongs to those who happen to be in the ruling party. It can be to all other politicians. A constitution, we are in power. We ought to change it. Now, in 1997, a group of Zimbabweans, and I'm happy that Priscilla is here, and I pull, I think I got a bit younger, or but Priscilla don't remember, and a number of people here. We came together in 1997 to found an organization which was premised on the view that a constitution is not just like any other law. That a constitution is above other laws. That the making of a constitution must be different from the making of other laws. And when you want to make a constitution, you must involve the people. And we coined the expression people-driven. It became the most popular expression in this country. More like Zama with Poland. People-driven constitution. What did we mean by that? We meant that it's not about what the current constitution is saying, but if you want to do a constitution, involve the people. At the time we founded the organization called the NCA, the National Constitutional Assembly. Then it was a civic. But we said at the time, the constitution we had was a Lancaster House constitution. We had a very strong leader. You know him. He's late. He rests in peace. We don't want to, I just don't want to demonize it. But it's not by former NCA, Pangapani Mtungabiri Simba. I am Robert Mugabe. I told Imi. Kana tiri power basa redu ndine kugadzira mutemo including the constitution. Akazama with people driven. Here I know address a meeting kuzanu pay headquarters. And I know these things. When we get to research and put them across, I know Mugabe's speeches, very brilliantly made. But they were very clear. Mugabe was clear that we, those who are in government, kokutonga kudi kana tisika kwanisi kuchinja chi constitution. So he would go to a rally. ZANU-PF people will say, that was in 2000, vachaenda kuparliament, pakaforma opposition, ikatora masitsi akawanda. Muna died in 2000, 57 chichi. Then vanhu vanga varuza ZANU yaramba ichingoita masitsi akawanda 120 chichi zvaitwa kudhara. Vaingoita 1 or 2 vaita opposition, 3 people. Dongo pamwe nani one time. Then vanhu voenda kuna Mugabe, vakuti nzvimbo dzedu dzakatorwa neopposition. Mugabe akati aiwa zvinetsi, we will amend the constitution. We are going to create a senate. Aitaura ari kuchiredzi kwangu nerally ikoko. And so open like that. Achitobva kuchiredzi, by the time helicopter yake yakudzika panapa muHarare muno, minister wake wejustice ipapo ainzi Chinamasa anenge akutoendesa amendment yechi the constitution. Is that clear? Mugabe is addressing a meeting of ZANU-PF politicians who are complaining that we have lost and you have won. Says, no, we will introduce it on a senate. Achitaura ari uko, kwangu sina messages that akushandisa WhatsApp. I don't know why vaishanda nechi, waitoteererawo paredhiyo. Kana uri minister waMugabe wejustice, president vataura vari kuchiredzi kuti auda kuamenda. Wototanga kudrafta bill rekuamenda constitution. Within 4 or 5 days, pananga patiwane a gazetted amendment number 9. Apa asaina paanenge asaina naJoshua Ngomoti taita unity 1987 amendment number 9. So every amendment, yeah, we are on the philosophy that a constitution can just be done or undone as long as we are in government. This position has not changed. And I think that's my feeling. We are doing our best to Poland. Then do mix up. It's clear-minded. We are doing our best to Poland to take advantage of every power. Kuti vasiyane nepfungwa iyoyo. Tunzwana. Tiri kuti kuna ED. Whether we succeed or not succeed, tutaura zvatiri kuita iko. Tiri kuti kuna ED. Siyana nenyaya yaMugabe yekuti constitution inoitwa paunodira. Is that clear? We are saying to the government that is there now, please undo this mentality. Undo this mentality that you can make or unmake a. That's what we are currently seized with that. So, please, let me say this. As an expert, a constitution ought not be easy to amend. That's from an expert point. If you then decide to amend it, it must not be the business exclusively of the government of the day. It must go beyond the present parliament, involve as much as possible. And that's what I would say on that. Then I think let me get on and quickly look at this process here. Now I've said that when the NCA was formed as a civic organization, we succeeded in convincing President Mugabe's government, but with a lot of force, a lot of sacrifice, to say to the constitution, Inovagoan, and so forth. Now, Priscilla, Nevamu 5, Musua Tagaita a referendum, Muna 2000. Dova Katanga Kusumba, Vajisungi was a referendum. I think Umuaji Aushanda wa Idiano's Christ Gotis. I think it was part of your idea. It was the Kurum office here, and was Christopher Gotis. Nana Priscilla Nevamu about 6, they were arrested. But time at I campaign for this. Mugabe had to be forced, Asruguda, to accept that there would be a referendum. Are you clear on this? The law in 2000 did not provide for a referendum. Parliament had to be convened to pass the referendums bill, which became the Referendums Act Muna 2000, because of the pressure coming from the NCA and other groups. Is that clear? Kuti Matia Zhumo, mtemo unoti, tikata hakuna zvakadaro. Nyangwe zvisiri pamutemo, zviisei pamutemo kuti constitution inobva kupi kuvanhu. And President Mugabe had to accept. But that was not after pasina arrest, pasina kurowa. Every time on Twitter, ndona vanhu vanenge vachingondiwanzira vakamboisa picture yandakarohwa vachingodzaiwa hawambosina kurohwa iwo wangongorusai kwezana akarohwa nditsvangirai. I mean, that's what they say. So I don't respond to those things, obviously. Because I'm talking about the life of the struggle in this country to make the point that a constitution ought not be simply the word of the ruling politicians. May I leave that point? Imim Madam, we are to understand it. Chairperson, my ear was not chair or director, I think director. But my ear, if Tiripanava take us to Tagaitamuno, can I tisinga the bill? Aritombo pass. Aritombo it. I know, and that's the truth of Poland. Muruguramba. Poland. I will, in fact, I have told you that I will speak in all this. So what we are doing there, what I'm saying,
let's have order. Get my syrup, it's a chin.
I'm sorry, my citizens. Can I go to take conversation? Got a great terror and it was some do democracy at true and it.
Okay, thank you. I think I must make it clear to you people. I must make it clear. I will not be pushed not to say what I want to say.
Yes.
And I think that I must. I am going to say what I want to say. And then you have an opportunity to say you don't want to, you have your own views. I cannot come here. I mean, they invited me to express my opinions, not your opinion. All right, so let me make the point. I have said the NCA is now a political party. It has become a political party, which is in Poland. It has pushed its positions.
I'm sorry, young man. My citizens here. Because they would dictate the young people, we need to be able to respect the processes. And we cannot build a country when we don't respect processes. Comrade in the red t-shirt. But you are going to get a chance, comrade, to respond. To go it's our respect. Thank you, comrade. Thank you, comrade. Let's be quiet. Let's respect each other and respect processes. Thank you very much. Because thank you very much. Prof, can you?
I will continue. What I'm saying is that we want Zimbabweans to be able to appreciate the point that no government of the day must be allowed to play around with the constitution. That's what I'm saying. And that when we push for that, we use different platforms for that position. And when I choose my own platform to push that position, you can choose your own platform as long as we are pushing in that direction. And I'm insisting that we will be doing that within Poland. Now, let me move on. Yes, I need that. I think it's non-negotiable. Comrades and friends. My position is clear. I have been invited here. I'm not just a constitutional expert. I'm a politician. I'm a political actor. I'm a political player. So I will not change my political direction. If somewhat I come across an audience that is hostile, I'm not supposed to keep addressing it. I should not force myself on you. If you don't want to listen to me, it's up to the organizers. But I cannot be here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what I want to put. And don't underestimate, I've told you I have a long history, like I've said, 97. We may have different political views, but I'm quite strong. I'll maintain my position in the face of anyone. Whether you bring the army here or anyone, you can shout 1,000,000 times, but I'm not going to stop making my point that I believe is beneficial to this country. All right, I will just finish up. The point that I wish to now make, if you look at the proposed amendments that have been put across, I will just pick one example of the amendments, which clearly cannot be accepted to be part of our constitution. It is an amendment related to the judiciary. Every society is based on the notion of an independent judiciary. Judges must be independent. So you look at the way they are appointed and the way they remain in office. The current provision requires judges to go through an interview, which is a public interview, except for the Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, and the Judge President. That was by amendment number 1. But that amendment actually came against Zimbabweans, never took the kind of processes we are taking. And amendment number 1 passed without public involvement, which was taking away public interviews. Then now, the proposal requires judges who are supposed to retire at the age of 17 mandatorily to retire if you are in the Supreme Court or Constitutional Court, to retire at the age of 75. But you don't just retire at 75. Every year from 70, you will submit a certificate of medical fitness to the president. It is the president who will say, if the opinion says it's right, the president has to accept the certificate for the judge to continue in office, but only for a year. Then again, Gorab Pera Kushka 5 years. Zapera. The president may say you are not medically fit, so you don't continue. You are medically fit, you continue. Now that is obviously unacceptable, isn't it? That is in the bill. There is no reason for such an amendment. There is no country that has such an amendment, such a provision now in Southern Africa. Augustina Zagadaro. Everyone accepts that when you appoint a judge, then you leave them until vital compulsory retirement. The other one, the president can now promote my judges from High Court to Supreme Court or from Supreme Court to Constitutional Court without a public interview. That again is unacceptable. Is that clear? Priscilla will give you other provisions, and I think Paul will do that, not jealous. We can go through each of them, but I would suggest that let us for now, in relation to amendment number 2, not concentrate on the specific provisions. Let's fight one issue for now, that let's not allow the government to proceed in amendment number 2. Let's allow an overall discussion. Yes, some amendments we would want in the Constitution for purposes of making the next elections in 2023 freer and fairer. So you don't allow the government of the day to propose amendments which do not address the things that we believe ought to be addressed. No, you didn't want to hear what we are discussing in Poland. We have already put across in Poland a list of our proposals. We have a document that we will be giving out to those who will receive it, which lists no less than, I think, 31 areas of our electoral law, some of them which will require constitutional amendments. I can give you an example. The bill proposes that you remove the running mate clause, and then in the place of the running mate clause for succession, you then say that we will get the president who takes over from the political party of the president. Wangaripo. So November, we got ED from nowhere. He came from a meeting here. Yes, we are saying from nowhere as a nation. He came from ZANU-PF. But a political party ought not to be the interest of all of us. Now, it applies not just to ZANU-PF. I know the succession issues are going to go MDC. MDC Alliance. I was. I'm winding up. Order. We must not put in our constitution. We must not put in the constitution of the country a provision that is dependent on what happens in a political party. That's the point I'm making. We must never say in our constitution of Zimbabwe that if a sitting president dies or resigns, we will wait to hear what the political party of that president is saying. No, that is not the best way of running a country. Political parties remain the prisons of those people who are in those political parties. But the country is run on the basis of either an election by the people on direct election, or you have parliament as an institution sitting as an electoral college. Where political parties have influence, they must do the influence within parliament, but never to allow a political party to sit there and say, I'm giving you this president, and so forth. That's the point I'm making. And on that point, I'm making it right across the world. That's what they do. So my point is this. This is an opportunity for Zimbabweans to unite, regardless of where you are coming from. To say no to the government of the day tampering with the constitution. But we agree that the Constitution must be amended in those areas where we want to improve our democracy. It must be amended in those areas where we want to deepen our democracy. It must be amended in those areas where we want to open up space. We in the NCA have so many places in the Constitution we would want opened up before 2023. So that we have a freer election. We have a fairer election. We did say previously, and Priscilla will confirm that, we have discussed the situation where how do we run an election, a presidential election? Who appoints the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission? These things would require an amendment of the Constitution because as it stands, the President appoints the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. We want a conversation around that. Is this the thing that we still want to see in the Constitution?
No.
So if we don't want it, then there must be an amendment of the Constitution. So you cannot say no to an amendment of the Constitution. We are saying no to an amendment initiated by the government of the day.
Yes.
But yes to an amendment that is dominated by the people. That is my contribution.